Mismong si Pangulong Marcos nagulat nang biglang makita ng mga Tsino ang hinahanap na gulo sa Pilipinas. Base sa balitang kumakalat, nagulat ang China sa biglaang pagpapatigil ng mga kakampi ngayon ng Pilipinas. Ayon sa PCG, hindi lang Amerika ang nagbabala sa China na tumigil na sa West Philippine Sea, kundi maging nananahimik na ibang bansa ay talagang nagagalit na kundi titigil ang China sa West Philippine Sea.
That many countries have actually expressed support for the Philippines. As our latest count is that there have been 14 or so. Among them are France, US, Japan, Ireland, Australia, Canada, Denmark, EU, Germany, and Netherlands, New Zealand, UK, among the countries that have actually already signified support for our position and also expressed concern about what is happening in the waters.
Pero ayon sa Senate President, pinakaiusap na kay Pangulong Marcos pauwi na sa China ang ambasador na walang naitutulong sa President dahil wala naman itong ginagawang hakbang para tumigil sa pag-atake ang kanilang bansa. Kaya palayasin na dapat ang China, unahin ang ambasador nila, pauwi na ni President.
You have mentioned about this, that the government is considering the declaration of the ambassador as persona non grata.
When an ambassador assumes he is accepted by the accrediting host government, if you do something or say something that is unwelcome, then you can be subject to what they call persona non grata.
Pero sa preskong inilabas ng PCG, sumagot si Commodore J. Tariela sa tanong kung bakit hindi sila gumaganti ng bomba sa China kung kargado din naman pala ang PCG. Sagot sa China ng PCG.
Question lang po kay Commodore Tariela and also to Colonel Aguilar. Sir, tanong ko lang, meron ba tayong available vessels that have the capacity to do a water cannon?
But let me stress the fact, that for the Philippine Coast Guard, we believe that the water cannons that are placed on our vessels are intended for us to carry out our duty in combating fire at sea. This is not something that we consider as an offensive weapon to damage any other vessel. We believe that if we're going to be consistent with that kind of behavior as a Coast Guard organization, we don't need to go down to the level of the Chinese Coast Guard using their water cannon to use it as an offensive weapon and damaging the other vessels. Again, the Coast Guard organizations here in the region has something to do with maritime safety. And with what the China Coast Guard is doing, obviously it doesn't conform with the regional standard of promoting safety.
So sir, every time the Chinese vessels blast us with their water cannons, we cannot do a counter water cannon on them?
Again, we choose to maintain our moral high ground. If they're going to choose to do that kind of barbaric attack to prevent the Philippine Coast Guard or the Armed Forces of the Philippines in completing our resupply operation, then let them be so. But for the Philippine Coast Guard, using a water cannon to respond to such attack is something that we're not going to do. Secondly, we abide with the guidance of the President that we don't have to do anything stupid to escalate the tension.
China Coast Guard and its maritime militia have no right to interfere in our routine and legitimate operations. Ayungin Shoal is within our exclusive economic zone, and their presence and actions are undermining the peace and stability in the West Philippine Sea.
The Department of Foreign Affairs is committed to pursue its mandate of protecting and upholding the Philippine legal maritime entitlements in the West Philippine Sea and is utilizing all forms of diplomatic actions available. We note that this is the fourth time this year, with the two incidents happening just over the weekend, that water cannons have been used against Philippine vessels. More alarmingly, this is the third incident where dangerous maneuvers by Chinese vessels have resulted in a collision since the 22 October Aurora mission. Our Philippine Embassy in Beijing have made a démarche to the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs yesterday. The démarche included in the agenda the incidents in the Bajo de Masinloc last Saturday and in the Ayungin Shoal yesterday. The Department of Foreign Affairs has also lodged a protest to the maritime communication mechanism yesterday while the Aurora mission was underway. The Chinese ambassador has also been summoned. Bajo de Masinloc is an integral part of Philippine territory and over which the Philippines has sovereignty and jurisdiction. China's action on 9 December, dousing of Philippine vessels using water cannons, are serious actions aimed at preventing Philippine authorities from undertaking legitimate activities around the area. These actions violate the Philippines' sovereignty and jurisdiction and are a threat to peace, good order, and security. We reiterate that the resupply mission to the PRP Sierra Madre on Ayungin Shoal on 10 December is a legitimate exercise of the Philippines, given that the feature is part of our exclusive economic zone and continental shelf. The Philippines has sovereign rights and jurisdiction over it. As a low-tide elevation, Ayungin Shoal can neither be subject of a sovereignty claim, nor is it capable of appropriation under international law. China's purported exercise of maritime law enforcement powers, interference with Philippine rotation and resupply missions, harassment and intimidation of Philippine fisherfolk, or any other activity that infringes upon Philippine sovereignty and jurisdiction in Bahamas Lock and the Philippine sovereign rights and jurisdiction in Ayungin Shoal are violation of international law, particularly the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea. The Department of Foreign Affairs will not tire of conveying this position on Bajo de Masinloc and Ayungin Shoal to the Chinese side, inspired by our steadfast uniformed personnel on the BRP Sierra Madre and the services that are committed to their support and sustenance. Philippine activities in both features are legitimate and undertaken pursuant to UNCLOS, the Constitution of the Oceans. Our policies remain anchored on the 2016 Arbitral Award and our commitment as a state party to UNCLOS. It is regrettable that yesterday, the 10th of December, is also the 41st anniversary of UNCLOS, and the day was commemorated with such violation of the convention. Once again, we thank the international community for their continued expression of support to the Philippines and the defense of the rules-based international order. We will continue to call on China to be a responsible member of the international community and abide by its commitments, desist from undertaking actions that violate Philippine sovereignty, sovereign rights, and jurisdiction in the West Philippine Sea, and undermine the mutual trust and confidence that should underpin bilateral relations. This is a narrative that China has espoused, and it has no basis in international law, in particular by UNCLOS and the 2016 Arbitral Award that clarified the supposed historic rights asserted by China over the South China Sea is illegal, null, and void. In response to having lost the argument in the tribunal, China has sought to nullify the award, which was validity handed down by the properly constituted arbitral tribunal. UNCLOS is a robust and comprehensive framework on maritime zones of coastal states and the rights and entitlements of coastal states. When China was exercising rights in passing through the South China Sea in olden times, it was via exercising their freedom of navigation and not because they owned the entire South China Sea. Its historical navigation of the South China Sea cannot be used as a basis of ownership of the same, as certainly the South China Sea now or in history was plied by many peoples and cultures. That's narrative one. The second, they're saying that the Arbitral Tribunal Award in the South China Sea arbitration violated the principle of state consent. UNCLOS has considered the possibility of one party choosing to not participate in proceedings. It has provided for this in Article 9 of Annex 2 of UNCLOS, which provides that if one of the parties to the disputes does not appear before the arbitral tribunal or fails to defend the case, the other party may request the tribunal to continue the proceedings and to make its award. Absence of a party or failure of a party to defend its case shall not constitute a bar to the proceedings. Before making its award, the arbitral tribunal must satisfy itself not only that it has jurisdiction over the dispute, but also that the claim is well-founded in fact and law. As stated in the tribunal award, the tribunal has continued the proceedings, confirming that despite its non-appearance, China remains a party to the arbitration with the ensuing rights and obligations, including that it is bound under international law by any decision of the tribunal. The Arbitral Tribunal has also taken steps to ensure procedural fairness, ascertain China's position on the issues for decision based on the statements made by the Chinese official publicly and in communications to the members of the tribunal. It has also made a thorough review of materials placed before it by the Philippines. The tribunal has also taken steps to satisfy itself of its jurisdiction and the legal and factual foundations of the Philippines' claim through obtaining independent experts' input, reviewing other materials in public domain, and inviting further comments from the parties of these sources. The next is although that is not the many narratives, its construction and deployment of necessary defense facilities in many of the reclaimed features are actually legitimate, lawful, and beyond reproach. These activities would be legitimate if the waters being referred to by China are within their EEZ. In the South China Sea and in the West Philippine Sea in particular, China's unilateral claim of sovereignty over the entire South China Sea based on alleged historic rights is illegal, null, and void. Under UNCLOS, construction of artificial islands, conduct of maritime scientific research, and exercise of maritime law enforcement powers over the appropriate maritime entitlements are within the exclusive right of the coastal state. China should follow UNCLOS, to which it is a state party, and not reinterpret and distort the treaty in order to unilaterally impose its will to the rest of the Southeast Asian nation.
Ngayon, ikaw, bilang Pilipino, ano ang masasabi mo at reaksyon sa balitang ito? Mag-iwan ka ng komento sa ibaba at atin pong babasahin isa-isa